Hey everybody, Brett Etheridge here, founder of GMAT Test Prep and the industry's leading online GMAT Prep course. And in this video, I want to talk to you about habits. And specifically, I want to give you 5 key habits that if you implement them, if you learn them, if you create these habits, they will lead to huge success for you on test day. Now, there's a lot going on the board. It'll all make sense. I'll give you the 5 habits here in a second. But first, I want to teach you a little bit of a framework to think about how to create habits. And it comes from a book I'm actually reading right now. I'm almost done with it. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I highly recommend the book. In fact, I'll provide a link to this book for you below this video if you want to grab a copy yourself. I think it'll serve you well in all areas of your life, whatever types of habits you're trying to create. But I think what he teaches here in terms of how to create success habits certainly applies for you preparing for the GMAT as well, right? I mean, we are what we repeatedly do. That makes sense. Our habits are what we become. If we regularly eat good food, lots of fruits and vegetables, and exercise, what do you think? Do you think we're going to be overweight, or do you think we're going to be healthy and active? Obviously. What we repeatedly read influences how we think and view the world. And what we do repeatedly in terms of preparing for the GMAT has a huge influence on your eventual success on test day. And he talks about kind of 3 layers of how we produce results in our lives. And most of us kind of go the wrong direction, right? So we have these outcomes that we desire. For you, you desire a 700 score on the GMAT, or maybe a 600 score on the GMAT, or you just need a 550 to get into the school that you're shooting for. Whatever your target score is, that's the outcome that we want, right? And so often, and I've taught this myself in business, and I've attended business seminars where they teach this, it's all about setting goals, right? Goal setting is important. We could do a whole training on goal setting, and it's vitally important. These are like your goals. My goal is to go to Harvard Business School. My goal is to get a 700 on the GMAT. That's your desired outcome. And so often what we do is we work kind of outwards in. We say, okay, here's my desired outcome, and I'm going to work in this direction. Next are the processes. The processes are like the things that you do, the actions you take to achieve those desired outcomes. So we start with the goal, then we create hopefully some sort of processes around that, and then ultimately we hope that's going to kind of derive or create our identity. I'm a 700 GMAT test taker. I am a business school student. It starts with our desired outcome, and then we hope to become the kind of the fruit of our labor. But what James Clear says in this is, he says that's kind of backwards. What we need to do is we need to start by figuring out our core identity, and that's a whole aspect of the book I'm not going to go into here, but it starts with your identity. If you know who you are and what you want to be, then that leads to the actions you take on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. Those are the habits, right? These are the habits, the processes, the habits that then lead to the outcomes. So you don't have to start by setting a goal of scoring 700 on the GMAT. You need to start by figuring out who are you. And by the way, this is an important exercise for your application, right? Because a lot of times the essays you have to write speak to who you are, what your core values are, why you want to go to business school in the first place. Those will drive then the types of actions you regularly take. I am a disciplined person. I am a leader. Those processes then, the habits that you will repeat daily, weekly, monthly as you're preparing for the GMAT will lead to the results. You don't have to set a goal of scoring a 700 on the GMAT. If you do these things, that outcome should result. And so he kind of flips the whole idea on its head. I've always taught it as the be, do, have principle. Don't start with what you want to have. Start with who you want to be. Then what are you going to do representative of who you are at your core, and then you will have what you want. In this case, a GMAT score, going to business school, etc. Does that make sense? So with that in mind, what are those things? What are these 5 things, these 5 habits that you need to implement? And the first one is, dun, 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 you need to read more. In fact, I would say you need to read 30 extra minutes every day. This is one thing that you can absolutely control between now and test day. So you might not be able to make up for a lifetime of not being a reader. If you've been a reader, you might be in good shape for the GMAT and the reading comprehension. But what if you haven't been? Or what if English isn't your first language? One thing you can control between now and test day is the amount that you read. And my recommendation, based on my own experience and my own GMAT journey, is to increase the amount you're reading on a daily basis by 30 extra minutes. Get up a little earlier, read during your lunch break, read before you go to bed at night. You figure out when to work it into your life, but make it a habit. And the types of things you read matter. You want to read, ideally, real former GMAT passages, reading comprehension passages. But beyond that, pick something that's a little bit outside your comfort zone. Think about the types of reading comprehension passages you see on the GMAT. A lot of times they're about topics that you might not know a lot about. Archaeology or history or government. And so pick Scientific America, the periodical, Foreign Affairs Magazine, National Geographic, some of these denser, more academic types of journals about the types of topics you may see on reading comprehension, and just start to read those and consume those, and your reading comprehension will improve. And by the way, this is a habit you should implement starting now and carrying lifelong. Readers are leaders. At the end of the day, this should be a habit that carries you for the rest of your life. So, number one, and by the way, some of these are probably going to be obvious, things that you've thought about. Others might be a little bit outside the box and you haven't thought about these habits. The second one, though, I think will make a ton of sense to you. You need to create the habit while you're preparing for the GMAT of learning and practicing daily. You need to do something to improve your GMAT skills, knowledge, abilities on a daily basis. The analogy I like to use is if you were trying to get in shape, which do you think is going to create better outcomes? Cramming, like working out 3 hours on Saturday. You go to the gym on Saturday and you just spend all day there, maybe 3 hours at the gym on Saturday, and then you don't do anything the rest of the week. Or what if you just go to the gym 30 minutes a day, every day, for the next 3 months, 90 days? You're going to be much better off just doing a little bit every single day rather than trying to cram once a week on Saturdays. Same thing with the GMAT. We're trying to build to a certain sharpness. So you need that consistent action of learning and practicing. Now, I think one of the great resources that you should be learning and practicing from is called the GMAT Official Guide, right? So you should do as many of the practice problems in this book as you can. Depending on when you're watching this video, maybe a new edition has come out, but the point is you want to be doing practice problems as many as you possibly can. But here's where students mess up. And here's where maybe your habits need to kind of flip-flop a little bit. In fact, I just got a call yesterday from a guy saying, hey, I just took the GMAT again. I haven't gotten the score that I want. Can you help me out, right? And I said, okay, what have you been doing? Well, I've been putting in the time and I've been putting in the hours. But all he's really been doing is doing practice problems. He hasn't been focusing on the learning aspect of it. Now, can you learn by doing practice problems? Sure. But it'd be like if you were going to try to play golf and all you did, you've never played golf before, and you just take your clubs and you go and you start playing holes, like you play rounds of golf. And you're not getting any better, and you keep hitting the ball off into the woods, and the ball's going into the lake, and you can't make a... You've never learned how to actually play golf. Have you ever had somebody teach you how to swing a club? Have you ever had somebody teach you how to putt in a straight line? Have you ever had somebody look at your swing and try to figure out why the ball's going off to the right every time you try to hit it? No? Well, how do you expect to get any better? So you need to spend time every day learning. And that would involve taking a course like mine, having somebody actually teach you the X's and O's. Here's how to solve these question types. Here's the theory behind them. Here's strategy for this type of question, or these are the common wrong answers. And then go work a bunch of practice problems. So you should be doing a little bit of each of those every single day. Which leads me though to my third habit. And this one might be a little bit interesting for you. And it is a habit that will take practice. And the habit is to learn to take pains when you're doing your practice problems. Take pains. What does that mean? Here's what a lot of students do, and this is where you need to develop this habit because it might not be natural. You might have a bad habit. You might already have this habit, like the bad version of this, a habit of. Here's what you do. You're working a practice problem. Maybe you're doing homework in my course. Maybe you're just going through a book and working practice problems, and you get stuck. And maybe you even just look at the question. You don't even know where to begin. Take my course. But you aren't sure where to begin, or maybe you start working the problem and then you kind of get stuck partway through. And what do you do at that point? For a lot of you, and I was this way as well, you flip to the back and you read the answer. Oh, I'm stuck. I don't know how to do this problem. I'm going to go read the answer and maybe figure out if I can get unstuck, right? But here's the habit you need to develop. You need to unlearn that bad habit, the bad habit of giving up too early, and learn the new habit of taking pains, putting in a little bit more mind power, a little bit more stick-to-itiveness, a little bit more extra effort to figure out if you can come at it from another way, if you can remember some of what you learned in a book or a course or a video, go research it a little bit on your own. Don't just flip to the answer choice too early because two reasons. One, you can't do that on test day. On test day, the computer's up there on the question's up there on the computer screen. There's no answer key, there's no cheat sheet, there's nothing you can flip to. You have no choice but to work through it. And if you haven't practiced doing that, it will feel uncomfortable. You'll start to panic, you'll freak out, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this problem, because you've never forced yourself to work through it. And the second reason is, that's where the best learning comes from. The best learning comes from the breakthroughs that happen when you figure it out, when you make a mental leap, when you dig into the recesses of your brain to a video that you just watched in maybe a course or a book, and I remember that. Yes, boom. Now that connection has been made and it's there permanently. And then when you see a question like this on test day, you've already made the mental breakthrough. You've also learned to force yourself to get creative, to reason your way to a right answer, because that's ultimately your goal on test day. So learn to take pains and create that habit. Fourth habit for you that will lead to success for you on the GMAT is you need to take at least one practice test every week. Okay, that's it. There's not a whole lot to say about that, but you need to get in that habit because this is where you kind of check in. These are your benchmarks. This is like game day. You've been studying, you've been learning, you've been practicing daily, you've been taking pains. Now it's game day, right? Practice is fun. Game day is better. Let's take a benchmark and see how you're doing. Have you improved? Are you feeling more comfortable with certain question types? Practice tests are also where you hone your time management. Sometimes I have students, even in my own course, who say, Brett, I assign a practice test like the very first week. And then I'm not ready for a practice test. I haven't learned enough yet. Take it anyway. You need to get in the habit of taking these practice tests. It's not the type of thing where you want to wait all the way till the end, take one practice test like 3 days before your GMAT and hope it goes well. That's not a very good strategy. You need to be doing it along the way so that you get used to it. You get used to a little bit of butterflies in your stomach when you know that the clock is going to be ticking down. Again, develop your time management and so forth. So there are a couple free GMAT practice tests on the MBA.com website. I have up to 5 full-length GMAT practice tests for sale on my website. There are other resources for practice tests, but get your hands on a bunch of them and plan to do at least one a week between now and test day. And this brings me to my final habit that is just as important as all the rest of these, but might be a little bit outside the box in terms of something you've thought about before. And it's to get in the habit of expressing gratitude. Interesting. Get in the habit now of expressing gratitude daily. Whether, for me, I get up every single morning and I have a little bit of quiet time, I pray, and I think about and I just reflect on and express gratitude for all the blessings in my life, for the fact that I'm alive, things that my family, and in your case, you should be incredibly grateful for the opportunity to prepare for the GMAT. Right? This is a total mindset thing, but the mindset you take into test day absolutely influences how you're going to perform on test day. If you go in scared, if you go in thinking that your whole life depends on this one moment in time, and how do you think you're going to perform? But if you go in with the idea that, you know what, I am in the top 1% of people worldwide who are even lucky enough to think about considering going to business school, and I'm educated and I'm capable and I have a good brain, and you should be grateful for all of those things. And not just GMAT related things, but other things in your life, because it's going to create a sense of happiness, of purpose, of gratitude that will serve you well on test day. And that may seem weird to you, but I guarantee you that it will pay dividends, not just on the GMAT, but in your outlook in life, your success beyond the GMAT and business school. So get in the habit now of expressing gratitude. Maybe start a gratitude journal. That could serve you well also every day between now and test day, and then hopefully beyond. So be, do, have. Start by figuring out who you want to be. What type of person are you? And what are the processes then that reflect that core value and set of beliefs about the things you're willing to do to get what you ultimately want, which is a good GMAT score, going to business school, and a future career in business beyond. So I hope you have found this helpful. I look forward to hearing from you. In fact, please go ahead and leave a comment below. Please let me know which of these habits was kind of maybe new or different, or did you learn something else about? I would love to hear that. And maybe if you have some habits that have served you well as you've been preparing for the GMAT, I'd love to hear those as well. So go ahead and type those, share those with me and the rest of the community so everybody else can benefit from your wisdom and your experience as well. And with that, I'll leave you to get to it starting today. Go ahead and start implementing these today as you prepare to dominate the GMAT.